Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and gallery members, to our May 8th regular council meetings. I call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. I will now ask council if they have any added items to the agenda. Seeing none, then, we'll move right down to the adoption of the agenda as presented. Please, motion, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'd make the motion that council adopt the regular and closed council meeting agenda for Monday, May 8th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Yes, Legislative Clerk Marcy?
Thank you. Administration requests a friendly amendment for pages 73 to 75. It reflects right now the DC 7, and we'd like it to reflect DC 2. We'll amend the agenda package and put it on the website after the meeting, with your permission.
Thank you. You have an update from our Legislative Clerk. Any questions to the amendment? They'll provide for us once we get to the item. Very good. So we have a friendly amendment from Councillor Wilson then, and I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving down to page 3 of our agenda, please. We'll do these in 2 separate motions. The first one, please, a motion for the regular council meeting minutes of April 24th. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the minutes from the April 24th, 2023 regular council meeting be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we will go to the special closed council meeting minutes of April 26, 2023. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. I move that council approve minutes of the April 26, 2023 special closed council meeting be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Does council have questions to those minutes? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Does council have any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we will move down to the next item 4, delegations and presentations. None, so we're moving down to item 5 for bylaws, and that's on page 10 of your agenda, please. And we will be starting off with item 5A, and I know that the development officer is here, Sarmad and CEO Williams, or would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. For first reading, I'll look to the back. Sarmad, are you presenting this, or did you just want to do first reading and come back next time? Yeah, maybe put first reading on the floor, and if there are questions at first reading, then either Kyle or Sarmad could address those.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here for this item. It's much appreciated by council. I would ask for a motion, please, then, for first reading of bylaw 2023-15. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council gives first reading to bylaw number 2023-15 and...
Thank you. We'll leave it at that for first reading, and I will then ask council, do you have any questions with regards to this before we move forward at this time? Therefore, I will call for the vote for first reading. Those in favor? That's unanimously carried, and I now ask for first reading of 2023-16, please. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council gives first reading to bylaw number 2023-16.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Walsh. I'll ask the question one more time if you have anything you would like to speak to for 2023-16. Seeing no movement, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. And now, please, we'd like to set a public hearing date. Motion, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council sets Monday, June 26, 2023 at 1 p.m. in the council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2023-15 and bylaw 2023-16.
Thank you. Questions for the date? Go ahead, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question for administration here, since this is really the first time I think we've had a public hearing that I expect there to be a lot of people to. If the Chambers becomes not the proper venue for this event, does that affect the way we publish this date and time today? And do we then, if administration decides the Chambers isn't the right spot for the public hearing, do we have to advertise it for another 30 days, or is that still good here with just an amended location? Curious about that.
Your question, CEO Williams?
Thank you for the question, and I believe just advertising with the amendment to the location would be fine without the 30-day notice. 24 hours, I would mention, would be fine. 2 weeks?
Excuse me, I'll get you to come and state that at the mic, please, Sarmad. So we have viewers that are watching us, they can't hear.
Hi, Mayor Dahl. We advertise consecutively for 2 weeks on the newspaper, and we advertise the time and the date and the place. So if we do change the date, we would need a consecutive 2-week notice.
The location was the question, even the
Even
location?
the location, yes,
Oh,
correct.
I stand corrected.
Thank you for that, Sarmad, that's very good. Does that help your answer? Thank you, very good. We have a motion on the floor, then I will call for a vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Once again, thank you very much for your attendance. Now to page 20, please, item 6A. This is our council strategic plan 2022 to 2032 that we just viewed at our last policies and priorities meeting. Administration, our CAO, is looking for an adoption of the plan. So I would look for a motion to get on the floor, please, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council adopt the new strategic plan as presented.
Thank you. Last opportunity then for any comments that you would like to ask your CAO. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to CEO Williams. And just for clarification, my memory loss perhaps, this will be placed on our webpage that people can look at. And exactly where do they find it again? Is it have its own tab, or is it under council? Okay, just so that the general public knows where they can look for it if they wish to view the strategic plan.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I believe it is on the council page, but we will have a separate post on social media and on the news release items on the webpage, directing them accordingly.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. If there's no further questions then, we have a motion from Councillor Daly. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, CEO Williams, for those comments as well. Moving down to page 28, please, of your agenda. Item 6B, this is the Policy 804C Community Grant Program. Is there anything further you'd like to add to this, CEO Williams, before I put it on the floor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dahl. Excuse me. Discussion last Monday had a few minor tweaks which were made accordingly. I just wanted to provide some reminders for council and then update to the general public. The policy and the subsequent procedure, that will take effect or be seen to the public in the fall. That's when we're planning the first formal intake for the community grants program funded through Mountain View Power. There will be a spring announcement and spring applications coming to council, probably in late May, at the latest early June. That won't follow the procedure exactly. This is more to a beta test for the community grants program and the Mountain View Power revenue generated through that. It's really just meant to get the word out there, to spread the message that Mountain View Power is community owned and the benefits that it rots are brought back to the community. So just for information's sake, the council will be seeing the community grants applications coming forward in the very near future. For the full public release, that is right now considered to be a fall, probably October intake, according to what the procedure is dictating right now. So just a point of clarification for council and the public at large, but we're excited about getting Mountain View Power back in the public again, and I think it will provide great benefit to the community. So.
Well, thank you for that information sharing. I would ask council if you have any further questions, and I'll start with, you're good? Okay, please do.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that council approve the Town of Olds Policy 804C Community Grant Program as presented.
Thank you. Now I will ask council if you have any further questions before we vote. All right, I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously, and thank you very much for all the work your administration's done on that too, CEO Williams. Moving down now to the next item, please, page 31 of your agenda, and that is Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission Agreement. And we'll get that motion on the floor. That will be our representative, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accept for information and direct the mayor and CAO to sign the water supply agreement between Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission and the Town of Olds.
Thank you very much. I have one question, and I would like to ask you as our representative. Is Mr. Van Duisburg, as CAO, will he be coming to speak to us at any point?
That's a good question, and I will be attending a meeting Wednesday morning, and I'll ask him that question if he and perhaps maybe the Director of Operations would like to come and speak to council in a near future.
Really appreciate that. Now we're in our almost 2-year term. It would be nice for new council to meet him. Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Are there any further questions? Very good. I will call for the vote then. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next item of business is on page 61, please. This is item 6D, and it's Development Permit 23-35 for an accessory residential building. I'd ask CEO Williams, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And Sherry, our development officer, is with us. She'll introduce this item. I just wanted to clarify something. I did send a note out earlier this morning. On this application 23035, the applicant is in attendance today. Sherry will be introducing or commenting on 2 of the conditions contained within the permit that the applicant would like adjusted. If council wishes to call on the applicant for further information, it is free to do so. What I want to speak to is we did receive, after this package was released, one statement of concern from a resident within the notification area, and that concern touched on a few points, one of which, being the most valid, is the unsightliness of the property in its current condition. So in the interests of, I believe, both the applicants, the responding landowners' concerns, along with our community standards bylaw, another condition administration is recommending council put forward is that prior to approving the permit with the condition that the property be brought into compliance with the unsightliness part of our community standards bylaw prior to the final sign-off being received. But with that, I'll invite Sherry up to introduce the application in full.
Welcome, Sherry. The mic's yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just going to display some of the pictures that were brought forward to our attention, just so that council can get an overview of what the property looks like at current. And then I'll begin.
You show these pictures, can you just define, is this in the rear of the property?
I haven't been able to be on site to know exactly which portion of the site it is. This was from the complainant themselves, as I would need to get permission to enter the property. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilmen and women, CAO Williams and Director Lindeman's not here. Okay, so I'll start off with this application. It is for an accessory residential building at 4102 50th Avenue. This area is designated as urban reserve, and the land use district is to reserve land for future subdivision and development until there's an overall plan that's been approved and passed by council. The development authority for discretionary uses in this area is council. The applicant is requesting a two-story accessory residential building with the garage on the lower level, the ground floor, and woodworking shop on the second floor for personal uses only. And accessory buildings are a discretionary use, as they're similar use that has been described in the district already. As a development authority, I have discussed these conditions listed on the application here, and you can see there. If you look at number 3 and number 4, the applicant who is here, Mr. James Rosenberg, has some concerns with them. If you just want to take a minute to read them. Okay, so I can speak on behalf of number 4. The applicant expressed some concerns in regards to that, as there are associated fees in order to provide a real property report. And with number 3, the applicant can answer any questions in regards to either of those that you may have.
Does council have any questions for item 3 with regards to the CCANs? Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a clarification, the property owner has agreed to number 3?
The property owner hasn't not agreed to it, but these are the conditions that I'm putting forth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Daly, or Councillor Ryan?
Yes, because we look so much alike. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yes, just a quick question on number 4. What is the reasoning, if you could tell us, behind requesting a real property report? And I'm thinking the word report is missing off of that, but could you give us a reasoning behind that?
The rationale to providing the real property report goes with, there's been a lot of development on this property. It is quite a large property, and we don't have anything that really shows the location of all the properties. There's been a garage added to the property. There's been an addition to that garage. There has been a secondary dwelling unit added to the site, and it's not known of its current location or if it meets the requirements of the land use bylaw. Development Authority does have the option to request this information, should they deem it necessary, but you also have the option to possibly change it, and I do have some solutions for that if you would prefer not to.
Supplemental, go ahead, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dahl. Supplemental. So what would be a different option then for this landowner? Because I can see the value in having a real property report on any property. I mean, we typically would have that on most residents. And certainly, there's value in having them. So what would be an option, and what is the concern, rather, besides just monetary, that why a report would not want to be done?
Okay, the importance of the real property report And the revision we could make here would be that the applicant shall provide an aerial photo of the property showing all the structures on the site, complete with the dimensions of all the property lines to the satisfaction of the Development Authority. This option was brought up by the applicant himself, and he would be open to doing this in exchange for doing the real property report, and some things that are he's leaning against the real property report is the monetary value, and then should he sell the property, he would have to get a new real property report, most likely. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to our development officer. So these existing properties that are dwellings that he has, then, just for clarification, none of these have been granted building permits in the past?
Thank you, Councillor Blitz. They do have permits on them, they've just not been recorded where they have been on site.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thank you, Sherry, for the update and the presentation. Just a question, in terms of the real property report versus the alternative. The real property report obviously is done by an independent third-party land surveyor, I assume, whereas if we go to the revised condition 4, that would be the applicant himself presumably doing the dimensions, the measurements, and everything else, right?
That is correct. It would be done by an Alberta land surveyor who's registered, and the applicant would be providing the aerial with his own information.
Thank you.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to Sherry, and thank you for that information. So with this revised condition, then, if he provides us with an up-to-date aerial photo of the property, I would be more inclined to grant this, providing that our Development Authority would have access to the property to view it as well.
That could be an option, and I could discuss that with the applicant, and I don't think that would be an issue.
Thank you.
Further questions? No? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. So would that necessarily be under the development permit and these particular conditions? Would we need to make amendments right now to include that? Because I do agree with Councillor Blatz that that's a very good idea that she had suggested that we would go on and help with the measurements, or at least verify the measurements of the buildings in some way. And it would definitely need to be put as part of the condition, and the revised condition to number 4, for sure.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One thing I should bring up, though, is it's hard to tell exactly where the buildings would be when you don't know exactly where the property lines are, and they aren't straight and they aren't at 90 degrees. So there could be error in anyone's calculation of getting those dimensions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Daly?
My concern, thank you, Mayor Dahl, through to Sherry. My concern is not having a real property report, in that there has been development that has been done on this lot, permitted but not recorded on the real property report. And so if we do an aerial photo and measurements, as you indicated, we wouldn't have the exact dimensions of where the buildings are sitting and so forth in regards to property lines, and that concerns me a bit, in that a real property report is a legal document, and that it is our reassurance that what has been done in the past is within compliance, and what is going to be built into the future is within compliance. And so I'm just worried about in the future of this property, if we go ahead with this and we don't have that documentation, are we setting ourselves up for something there? So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would tend to agree with that. Working with a lot of real property reports, even just with within the town of Olds, this property is down further on 50th Avenue, and they are properties, larger properties for sure. I know we have to do it definitely in town, but is there any other questions? All right, I'm not seeing any more. Would you like to finish with anything?
Yes, I would. If council is to consider adding a condition in regards to unsightliness, we have prepared something that you might want to entertain, and I'll show that here.
Yes, please do.
There, and it would state something like, "The applicant shall clean up the debris in the yard to the satisfaction of the Development Authority prior to issuance of the permit service report and release of security."
We'll leave that open to the floor, and I see Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I think something along the lines of, shall clean up the debris in the yard to the satisfaction of the Development Authority, but also in conforming with the CSB.
Standards bylaw for those who are listening.
Under the unsightly premises area and within that bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And Councillor Daly.
My recommendation would be to put a date in this for compliance, because if we leave it open-ended like this, it could be 5, 10 years down the road.
Williams?
I guess to both Councillor Ryan's points and to Councillor Daly's point, the Development Authority's discretion is based on the CSB, so I don't believe there's need to get that specific. And with adding the date, the PSR is required before occupancy occurs. If that is not achieved in essentially what is the lifespan of a development permit, usually 12 to 24 months, depending on the approval, that's where the process either starts over again or from where it left off, or where we can then take separate action through the CSB. It's obviously council's discretion, but I think as this motion reads, it seems vague, but the Development Authority will defer to the CSB and bylaw officers, and then the PSR is needed prior to anything being signed off on, which could have things from anywhere from occupancy to insurance compliance issues. So.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And for our viewers, PSR is Permit Service Report. Anything further? Are we prepared to make a motion at this time? Question, Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to either our Development Office or our CAO Williams. Item number 3 with the sea cans that are located on the property, they need to be permitted, do they not? Because they're not really allowed in a residential area, so I just want clarification on that, on item number 3 for sure. The sea cans that are located on the property shall be removed.
Correct.
Or approval shall be requested by the Development Authority, and the development permit shall be approved prior. So just for clarification on that one as well, that's written in the development permit and stands as is, correct?
Correct. I believe there's conversations between the Development Authority and the applicant right now around permitting those sea cans. Administration obviously has flexibility on the RPP condition. There's different ways to skin a cat there. For the sea cans, that's fairly objective in our land use bylaw, that they need to be permitted as a discretionary use in residential districts, and that would come back to council. But as for now, those are the unpermitted structures that maybe were referenced before.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I do have one quick question. How common is it in our area to have 2 homesteads on an undivided property like this? Because I don't see it very often. I'll see secondary suites, of course. I'll even see secondary suites above garages, but an entirely second homestead on an undivided property seems a little odd to me. So correct me if I'm wrong in that case, please.
Based on how long I've been here, I don't know a lot about the history of what's been permitted and stuff, but that unit has been permitted on this property and is allowed to remain.
Go ahead, Councillor Cummings.
Sorry, maybe not just common here in Olds, but common even as a residential permit in Alberta. I'm not from Alberta, right, originally, so I'm used to places where I grew up and saw this development, and when we, like on the farm where I grew up, if we wanted to build a second homestead, that had to be divided and subdivided property. We couldn't build a secondary homestead on our property. We could build a secondary suite, we could build an in-law suite of a certain nature, but this doesn't appear to be an in-law suite. This appears to be a completely separate homestead where a completely different family would live and reside and whatnot. So in your experience as a planner in this area of the country, is it common to see second homesteads on a single property that's undivided, especially in an urban setting?
Bill Williams would like to speak to that.
Yes, just to Councillor Cummings' question, there's a couple things with this. I'm going to make some assumptions. Well, the first thing is not an assumption. We do have a minimum lot size for secondary development, so it's like a secondary structure of any kind. Let's call it 1.2 acres. I'm not getting the numbers exact. So it is possible, but not common, just because most lots in olds, especially residential lots, just aren't that big. The second piece, probably this land was in the county at one point under different development regimes and perhaps even part of a larger farmstead. So I'm assuming we inherited some aspects of this property as well. Whether it would be approved today, it's hard to say, but yeah.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder too, please, to all councillors, for our viewers' sake, to speak into your mics. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. This will be my final kind of comment. So going back to the real property report, and although I did state that I would feel better if, an aerial photo was provided and Development Authority had access to the property, but and I think Councillor Daly sort of alluded to this question as well. So in the future, though, he goes to sell this property, he's going to have to get a real property report done at that point in time. So if these accessory buildings do not comply with our current land use bylaws, then what happens then?
Sherry can probably jump in here because I'll mess up the explanation, but usually when properties are sold, we give compliance letters to the in-between, usually a realtor or a lawyer. The compliance letter obviously would not be up to date without a proper RPP that showed the exact locations with the corresponding permits. Sherry, am I missing anything on that explanation of what could happen at the time of a potential sale if no current RPP was there?
At the current time of sale, actually, the buyer and the seller can make an agreement not to get a new real property report and not to get a compliance. However, banks can request those at a different time. And we would go off of the RPR that were provided. We would need some sort of an RPR up to a maximum of 10 years, and we would comment on what's on the real property report there.
Okay, do we have further questions in this regard? I'm going to ask council then, we will have to put a motion on the floor. You're certainly welcome to alter. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Joel. I'll put a motion on the floor, but then I think we need to, since we discussed these three potential conditions, perhaps they should be pulled out. I'm not sure exactly how CAO Williams would you like that worded, but could we just do the overall motion and then say yes or no to the three conditions that we've discussed in a separate motion, or do you want it all in one?
Good question. It's neither all in one, but I think if the motion's on the floor as amended, that council approved development permit application 23035 as amended, subject to the conditions listed, then we can discuss precisely which conditions we want to amend. And that will give us direction, because all of this is, all the conditions are essentially to the satisfaction of the Development Authority, which is Sherry and Kyle. So as long as we have clear direction, and it's fine. But if it goes on the floor as amended, and then we can just revisit those three conditions to get clarification on it, and then the vote can occur.
Had a healthy discussion around the table, and I wrote as amended as well, so thanks for clarifying that, if that so be your wish.
All right, thank you very much. I move that council approve development permit application 23-035 as amended, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit. And I would suggest that we continue to uphold the condition on the secants, allow the change to the aerial photo on number 4, and add in the number 11 on the unsightly property.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Does council have any further comments? Councillor Daly?
So for clarification, then, if we vote on this, number 4 is stricken off of that, and it's amended to an aerial photo then?
So, sorry. Yes, the draft condition that was provided on the screen a moment ago, that would be that would replace number 4 with updated wording for the aerial photograph, if that's what we're getting at. Number
Correct.
11 will be added as unsightly property as new, and number 3 will remain unchanged.
Correct, and I would suggest that if council would rather have the real property report, then I'm fine with making a friendly amendment to that amendment, so I'm just throwing it on the table. If we want to change number 4, and if council decides that they would rather have a real property report rather than the aerial photo, I'm fine with changing the wording.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I'll go to Councillor Cummings, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Might I suggest then we just ask for consensus on item number 4, whether we maintain it as is or we go to the aerial photo suggestion? Since that seems to be the only issue we have some sort of disagreement on.
We're looking for consensus then for real property report.
To either Sorry, yeah, just a consensus either to keep it as is or to change it to the amendment asked for by Councillor Ryan, which is the aerial photograph.
Okay, I'm open to either, actually. I like the idea of a real property report, but I certainly would move with the consensus of what council would like to do. Certainly. We'll start with Councillor Blatz and go around.
You want me to state whether I'm happy with it as written, or? Well, I would accept an aerial.
Councillor Walsh?
I'm in agreement. I accept an aerial. They're pretty precise these days.
You, Councillor Daly?
Real property report, please.
And Councillor Cummings?
I'm good with the aerial photo.
We'll still stick with Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dalton. I agree with the aerial photo, as well as, when we do the wording, putting in Councillor Blass's suggestion of having ability to go onto that property as well at the time.
My mic, sorry. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. For the record, I support the real property report.
Did you have a comment? Okay. Oh, well, now I'm going to have to split. I keep swaying over to the real property report myself. Real property report 4? Or the other way around? Okay, very good. That's the consensus then. Yep, the aerial. Thank you very much, everyone. So we have a motion on the floor now, and now I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried, and 1 opposed. Thank you, Sherry, very much for your time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Now we'll ask you to go to page 68, please. Item 6E, development permit, 2358 for a deck extension. CEO Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Sherry will present this one as well, but I just want to give what is becoming my recurring theme with development permits. Like, this is maybe the third or fourth the council has seen as the updated MPC, so to speak. And this one is similar to the direction that was received last meeting regarding the R4 setbacks that council requested changes on, which is forthcoming to hopefully an early June meeting. This one deals with direct control districts, which are a bit of a dog's breakfast, lack of a better term, and is something that if council wishes to see a bit more standardization with, we'll be open to that direction as well. But I'll let you hear it for yourself. So Sherry, you can take this one, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, CAO Williams, councilmen and councilwomen. This is an application for a deck extension to a deck that already exists at 12 Destination Place. It's designated as Direct Control 2. And it's a land use district for an area for comprehensively designed new smaller lots, single-family detached housing developments. Development authority is council, and they're requesting that a 9-inch deck by 9 feet be added to the property. Actually, sorry, it is existing. It does meet the minimum requirements of the land use bylaw. 6 meters to the rear of the property is required, and they are at 7.45 meters, and they have 1.82 meters to the side property lines, and the requirement is 1.5 meters. So, Matt. Sorry.
Thank you very much for that, Sherry. I'd ask council at this time for any questions or comments you'd like to make. Seeing none, I'd like a motion on the floor, please. Councillor Bratz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve development permit application 23-058 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Amended? Is that correct? No. Thank you very much, Councillor Blatz. Any further questions? Oh, Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one quick question here in general about the DC2 area that we're dealing with here. I kind of agree with what I'm hearing from administration, that having this as a direct control area seems a little bit weird. I understand maybe because it was such a new development when it occurred many moons ago, having such a small lot, single detached homes, this isn't new by far these days. I mean, just look at any city in Canada. This is pretty much a standard housing design nowadays. Is there any plan to remove the DC2 designation and simply make this an R1 or R2 designated area as required?
Who would you like to answer that, C.O. Williams?
The short answer, no. We haven't looked at the DC districts for rezoning just yet. It's something we certainly can do if our LUB review ever gets underway. It's been 25 years since the last review, so it's certainly on the list. But in the meantime, I think once we have kind of that 12-month review period of this new development authority structure, which I have mentioned in the past, direct controls, there's a lot of things that can happen in DC districts. Perhaps council, for instance, if you recall the extension to the cannabis facility a few months ago, perhaps that's something council wishes to keep in it's under its authority, but perhaps a deck extension on a house is not something that should be coming to council. And that's what we're trying to figure out right now. What is council's comfort level with kind of making this a bit less red tape for the applicant mostly? Because something like this really could be approved in an afternoon without having to wait a month to come to council. But so to your question, I think you're right. The DCs need to be reviewed for overall zoning. That can't happen in the near future under our current, I guess, workload budget. But just getting feedback like this from council on things matters before you that you think should not be before you is also helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just get you to turn your mic off, please, Councillor Cummings. Thank you very much for that question and the answer. We do have a motion on the floor right now from Councillor Blatz, and now a question. from
Sorry,
Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dahl. And just follow up on what CEO Williams said. And I agree, I think there needs to be some kind of more authority given to allow an extension of a deck rather than having us dealing with this at council. So whatever way we need to do to move forward on that and provide less red tape for people who are looking for applications.
Very good. It was a good comment and good question, a good comment, and we will now vote on the motion from Councillor Blatz. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for that discussion. We are now moving to page 76, item 6F, and this is our 2024 capital budget, and I believe Director Linderman, our finance, will review this.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we're looking for approval of the 2024 capital budget. It's being brought forward to council today due to the time required to receive the 2 pieces of equipment that are on here. The first item is a hydrovac truck. Vac trucks are currently taking anywhere from 8 to 12 months from order date till you receive it. Given the age of our current truck and the reliance that we have on this piece of equipment, we'd like to get one ordered for an early 2024 delivery. When looking at this item, we looked at both a lease and a purchase option. Given the high interest rates right now, I would propose that we borrow from reserves and pay ourselves back annually for a 5-year period. The purchase price we're looking at is $725,000. We have a trade-in value of $125,000 on our current machine. That would leave us borrowing $600,000 from reserves. The next item on here is an electric ice resurfacer. We have been approved for a $50,000 grant through the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. With this grant opportunity and with our current machine needing new batteries within the next season, it's a good opportunity for us to replace this machine now. The total purchase price is $200,000. Then with the $50,000 coming from the grant, $40,000 on a trade-in value of our existing machine, that would leave a remaining $110,000 to come from reserves. And with that, I'd just open it up to any questions.
That was a great explanation. Thank you very much, Director Linderman. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl, and just through you to Director Lindeman. I was just wondering where these 2 items sat, or even if the electric ice resurfacer sat on our capital 10-year out plan, because I know that we had talked about the hydrovac truck at one point, but never the resurfacer for the ice. So where would they be on our 10-year forecast, and how far up are we moving these items?
I did not bring the forecast with me today. I can look into that for you. I believe the ice resurfacer was on there for next year, but I'd have to take a look. Yeah, it was on there for 2024, I'm pretty sure.
It obviously was not part of my memory there, so thank you for that.
Councillor Cummings?
No, sorry. I did have a question, but I just realized I was reading 2013 as 2023 for some strange reason. So I've answered my own question. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. 2 related questions for the director. One is, so with the ice surfacer, unlike the hydrovac, we wouldn't repay to reserves. And could you just confirm again the split? It was 50K, 40K, which was grant and disposal?
So the $50,000 was the grant. It's 30% of, up to $50,000, 30% of the purchase price. And no, it is not being proposed to pay back reserves for the ice resurfacer, just for the vac truck.
Yes, thank you very much. Any further questions for item number 1? Yes, Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, through you to Director Lindeman. With regards to these 2 items, then, how does this impact our overall capital budget for 2024? Does it mean we have to take anything off, like if we've moved anything up?
So that would be at council's discretion when I bring the full capital budget in December. These will already be on there as purchased, and then you would have to prioritize the items that are being brought forward then. And both of these are coming from reserves, one with a payback.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I would ask for a motion, please, for item 1. Counselor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approves the 2024 capital budget in the amount of $925,000.
Very good. I will give you a final opportunity for a question. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll go on to item 2.
There was just one more motion on this RFD. I was looking for council direction to proceed with preparing a light fleet replacement policy that was based on our service level discussions. Okay.
And the second motion I was looking for, Counselor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council directs administration to prepare a policy for the replacement of light fleet based on service level discussions.
Thank you very much. No further questions for Director Lindeman? I'll call for the vote. Oh, sorry, Counselor Cummings.
Thank you. So we saw today an issue, it's been raised before, with the lag time of purchasing capital items. And I don't think it's an immediately new thing. It's a thing that we've seen since we've become in this legislation. But maybe, and I don't know if it's required by provincial law or regulations or policy to have our capital budget discussions in December for 2024, when we have such incredibly long lag times for purchasing equipment that can exceed a year. We have to have some sort of alternative plan for capital purchasing and budgeting of capital items that might be multi-year capital budget discussions. Say, I know some communities now are running 3 to 4 year capital budgets, approved once with amendments for the duration of the process, say in the second year of a mandate, and moving forward to alleviate those issues of having to come back like this and say, okay, it can take us 18 months to get this truck, so we need a budget for it now in the anticipation of getting it in 2025's budget, maybe even. I don't know if this is really a question or just a statement I want to make, that maybe we really do need to start looking at a more multi-year capital budget process to face the reality of purchasing equipment in the capital realm these days than what we're seeing today, where we could have just gone to the Ford dealership and bought a new one, or gone down to the city and bought a big hydrovac truck off some hydrovac lot, which just isn't the reality today. So I'd like to put that ear in everybody's bud, that when we start having these capital budget discussions, that we start looking at a more of a multi-year option than a reactionary budget response like we're seeing here today. Because you've brought it up before, and I think that it's something we need to have a very wholesome council discussion on before the 2024 capital budget comes to us in December.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Cummings, and I'm sure administration has noted that for us. Very good. And we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Daly. So I will call for the vote. I see no more questions. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now you can move to page 78, please, item 7A, and this is our Chief Administrator Officer report. CEO Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So on the screen, you have the action items, which have not moved much. We have our April report of problem summary. The April was mostly a snow-free month, so the road issues still dominate the complaints. We just moved from slippery streets to potholes. So as you can see, it's the trend in my eyes over the last few months has been fairly consistent in terms of roadways, sidewalks, and back alleys, just seasonal differences in all of those. At service level discussion, which we're still hopefully planning to get to the end of May, but maybe pushed to early June based on current timelines. Street repair and sidewalk repair will be two items where we'll provide council with a bit more information on our ever-growing priority list and our ever-stagnant budget item to repair said priorities. So look forward to that conversation. Just a couple smaller things to note outside of what's on the screen. In correspondence is a news release that just went out earlier today on the Olds and Area Health Professionals Retention and Attraction Committee, Council is familiar with this, as you, back in April, appointed Councillor Daly to be the Town of Olds rep on that committee, and May 25th is the official kickoff for that committee. Spearheaded by the Community Lifestyles Group, and then helped along since last fall by the town. The November session took place, which Mayor Dahl attended on behalf of the town and myself, where a lot of things were discussed, and what came out of that was a list of interested people who'd want to sit on that committee. From that, the members of what we called the first committee looked over and chatted with those people and arrived at a list. I think we're around 11 people coming on what's the final committee. So most everyone, save for one or two people from the first committee, will step aside, myself included, on May 25th, and let these new group of volunteers take over. So I think it's a positive step forward for the community. We're in talks right now with the Wetaskiwin Health Foundation and around what does a backbone look like, whether they're going to serve it or not. They are currently the organization that supports the Olds Hospital Fundraising Committee, so a lot of good information is shared there, and May 25th we're hoping to have details like that sorted out, but it's a lot of work went into it by a lot of dedicated people, and we're looking forward to what they're able to achieve. The second piece, fire response, I kept council updated over the weekend. Early Thursday, 4 members of the Olds Fire Department were dispatched to Drayton Valley, Brazeau County area to deal with the wildfire there. They did a great job in difficult circumstances, as some of the pictures and videos you've seen denoted. Rain came through for everyone up there, so it looks like the fire crews are getting in front of that blaze. 3 members are due to be sent back today, I believe, to Olds, while our Deputy Chief, Jason Jorsvik, has been requested to stay behind as a section command, as he was one of the first boots on the ground there. So he was requested by the AEMA and forestry folks to stay behind to help manage that. So we're happy to provide that. But kudos to the Olds Fire Department. They do us proud. And finally, tomorrow, Economic Development Week is this week, as you're aware. We're having our what will be an annual event at Olds College at 10 a.m. Yourselves and the entire community are invited. There'll be a few speeches and roughly 60 to 90 minutes what we're planning for, but the invitation is out there, 10 a.m. at the Workland School of Agriculture. So look forward to seeing some of you there. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Councillor Cummings and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So a quick question about the firefighting services. The province declared a state of emergency the other day with regards to the forest fires in our province, which of course frees up a tremendous amount of money for funding of these sort of things. Would it be normal for our police department or our fire department then to recover funds, the cost of our fire department going to this forest fire from the province? Or is there another mechanism set up for that process?
Thanks for the question. Yes, the cost recovery is part of this. It's based on vehicle apparatuses supplied mostly, the type of truck, and at a set rate the province provides. Who's going to pay that? I'm unsure, given that the state of emergency occurred after our deployment. There was a state of local emergency, which is a SOL, as it's called, and councils of the respective jurisdictions declare those. But there is always a cost recovery piece built into that. Yeah.
Yep. Councillor Blatz?
Well, I just wanted to say kudos to the fire department and to the volunteers that did go to help assist and mutual aid to our neighbors to the north. It's been a very scary time for all of them, and I think council should extend their thoughts to those people within the Drayton Valley, Edson area, Brazeau County that have been displaced, and hopefully we will get some rain and they will be able to return to their homes as soon as possible.
Yes, on behalf of our community, our thoughts are with all of those people at this point. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a question for the CAO relative to the RAP summary, the report of problem summary. Remind me again, like I see at the start of the report, there's a start and end date for the month of April. The data that's below, is that in fact just April data? And if it is it, I don't know how to ask this or request this, but is it possible maybe to get like a year-to-date data track as well, if that's not too cumbersome, too administratively burdensome?
Thanks for the question. So clarification, just a total number for each category that's been received to date? Is that what you're getting at?
That's correct, yes. Because this is just a snapshot of the month and time, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I can. That's totally doable without much issue. And that's what this, and just further to that comment, that's what this is here for. Any comments that council would like to see improving information coming back to you, provided we have the capacity to do it, but by all means, yeah, that's a pretty simple one.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thank you, CEO. And yeah, I'm just thinking in light of some of our discussions around service level and so on, and bylaw enforcement and everything, it would be nice just to have that tracking. I realize not all, perhaps, complaints would flow through this as we educate our citizens, but it would certainly be good information I would find helpful anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like a motion, please, for the CAO report. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council accept the CAO verbal report and update.
I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And now we are on correspondence and information. And I'll get a motion on the floor to start this. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the correspondence and information report ending May 8th, 2023 be received for information. And I do have a couple comments or questions if no one else does.
Yes, we will have some questions, and I believe our CAO spoke to this item C already, but there's sure room for more questions. Would you like to start? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, I want to say it was great news to see the letter from the county regarding our economic development strategy, and thank you to our regional partners in Mountain View County for their support and collaboration on economic development. But then my next comment or question is regarding to Municipal Area Partnership MAP Committee, the Mountain View Film Office. I see that it's a regional film office, but I noted that it's only the towns of Didsbury, Sundre, and Mountain View County. And I noted that the town of Olds nor the town of Carstairs was included in this, and I found that kind of disappointing, I guess, to say the least, that as a regional approach, whether we were approached and it's just not something it was doable for us as a municipality, but I would think in light of all the economic development strategies we're trying to put forth that we'd want to be included in this type of collaboration. So that's my comment.
Thank you for sharing that. The CAO may have some points, and as well, I can just conclude that Didsbury, you'll note that Didsbury, Sundre, and the Mountain View County are the ones that have collaborated to date on the Mountain View film. Olds has an invitation through some work that I've been doing, and this is an area I would like to sit down and explain further to council for the future. There's a lot more to the background of this, and it's time that I ask for further questions, and our CEO can also allude to some of these questions, and we'll talk with council as a whole. CEO William?
Yeah, just to Councillor Blatz's comment. So the Mountain View Regional Film Office, the town of Olds wasn't aware of this until the announcement was made that it was happening. So I don't know the current status, but we didn't receive the invitation, so we don't want to intrude, or we're not invited. But I think I didn't attend the last MAP meeting, but there could be opportunity if that's council's wish. But council would have to find time to discuss that at a future date, I'm sure.
Yes, and that's correct. CEO Williams is correct, hence why I more or less invited Olds to be, but there is some background and and I'll try and get some more facts for council on that in the very near future. Does anybody else have any other items they'd like to speak to? We have a motion from Councillor Blatz on the floor at this time. All right, then, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And we will now be breaking into a closed session. At this time, I am looking for a motion, please, for item number 1, FOIP Section 16. And who will be staying for this, CAO Williams?
Myself and the legislative clerk can remain in the room.
Thank you, and may I have a motion, please? Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we move into closed session at 2:05, citing number 1, FOIP Section 16, disclosure harmful to interests of a third, with CAO and legislative clerk staying in the room.
Thank you. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously.
Tameron's Mother's Day sale is going on now. Save up to $300 on select Tamron lenses. Find the lens that's perfect for your Sony, Fujifilm, or Nikon Z mirrorless camera, or your DSLR today. Choose a versatile all-in-one zoom, a fast zoom, an ultra telezoom, and more. Hurry! The savings only last through May 28th. Tamron, the best lenses make the best photos. www.tamron-americas.com.
Hey Spotify, do you drive a diesel? If so, it's finally time to say goodbye to clogged diesel particulate filters and incomplete regeneration cycles with Rizlone DPF Clean, our most advanced DPF cleaner. This formula helps your diesel vehicle restore lost power and performance, unclog your blocked DPF, turn off your check engine light, and clear P242F and similar OBD codes. Tap to learn more.
It's the bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Could be a twist here, so it's the perfect time for Twizzlers. Pitcher checks the signs, and uh-oh, we've got a streaker on the field. And here comes security, but wait a minute. Security is stripping down too. And would you look at that? Now my shirt is coming off. Was my 37 years of color commentary just a long con to pull off the perfect streak? Yes, it was.
Twizzlers. Sports are better with a twist.
It's pandemonium out here.
You deserve nonstop music. Why not let Spotify Premium serve up the music you love to listen to, ad-free and uninterrupted? Better hurry though. 3 months free ends soon and you can cancel anytime. Tap the banner to learn more.
Welcome back. Thank you, everyone. We have reconvened back to our meeting now, and I would be asking, let's go to Councillor Ryan for a motion, please, for item 1, FOIP, Section 16.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we accept the presentation from our CAO for information.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I will call for the vote at this time. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And again, thank you all for your attendance, and I would adjourn the meeting, please, now at 2:34 p.m.